According to the Indy Star and the International Labor Organization, in September 2016, there were around 40.3 million people held in modern slavery on any given day, and around 25% of that number are children. The hashtag #BringBackOurGirls might ring a bell for some and trigger awful memories for others. In April 2014, more than 200 girls were kidnapped from a school in Nigeria, and the world responded. This sparked a fire in people, including some of the biggest figures of the time. School, although difficult at times, is a place where you're supposed to feel safe and protected, and your family is supposed to feel the same as well. Boko Haram and his armed group of followers were able to abduct more than 276 girls while under their school's protection. Most sex trafficking incidents that most of us hear about are not that in controlled environments, such as schools. When the public hears about them, we often hear about cases of women being tricked into jobs that they were taking, or people traveling to foreign countries. Over 1 million people reside in Mali, and out of the 1 million residents, there are over 20,000 people forced into prostitution. The conditions for these people are that of which no one should ever have to go through. Human trafficking has been a recurring problem for many years, and in the most recent years, it has become one of the most talked about subjects in the media. Countries all around the world are fighting to combat the epidemic that has taken over the world in many different ways. Throughout this, I will explain how countries are taking action to abolish this disgusting black market activity that has taken over the world by the millions. 20,000 is just a small number compared to the number of sex trafficking related cases that come up all around the world. Women and children are feeling threatened by the thought of something like this possibly happening to them. We are first going to take a look into the lives of what it was like for the 276 girls that were abducted from their schools, what they went through, how their lives have changed, and what their families felt like while they were missing. Next, I will speak on Nigeria's anti-trafficking agency's discovery of 20,000 to 45,000 kidnapped Nigerian women in Mali. Lastly, we will be discussing what action is being taken in order to ensure the safety of women and children across the world when it comes to sex trafficking. According to the New York Times article on the kidnapped girls from Nigeria, written by Dion Searcy in April 2018, it was taking the Nigerian officials weeks to publish all the names of the students that Boko Haram had ripped away from their schools, families, and lives. The list was nearing 200 names. It had quickly made its way to the parents searching for their daughters. Lost to a band of extremists, these women were raped, beaten, and enslaved for the greater part of their teenage years. 4 years after the abduction, more than 100 students were released and now live on a pristine college campus just hours from home and away from their family. These women spend their days studying math and English. Their lives may seem average or even above average, but their daily thoughts lean towards their over 100 sisters who still remain captured. While these women and their families do not think of themselves as lucky, just weeks before the Chibok kidnapping, there were a group of young boys who were burned alive at their school by none other than Boko Haram. His reign wreaked havoc throughout Nigeria as they entered their 9th year of war with him. Many remain nameless, but many also have their names and their faces, as he publicly broadcasted their conditions for the world to see. According to CNN News, Nigeria has launched an anti-trafficking app called iReport that will allow people to report cases of human trafficking in their countries. Nigeria is top among African countries where thousands of women and children are trafficked illegally to destinations abroad. According to the Peace and Freedoms Post, they say that Nigerian trafficking victims were found in 40 different countries, and that 80% of all female Nigerian migrants in Italy are or will become trafficked. We live in a time where forced labor, human trafficking, and sexual exploitation is at an all-time high, actually at the highest it's ever been recorded in history. According to the NCSL's post on human trafficking, they They state that trafficking activities are defined as the recruitment, transport, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons for the purpose of exploitation, and some have expanded their definitions to include activities such as purchasing, benefiting, or profiting. The U.S. government uses the Trafficking in Persons report to engage in other foreign countries' governments on human trafficking. Worldwide, TIP is used by international organizations, foreign governments, and a non-governmental organization as well. This is used as a tool to figure out where resources are needed the most. Human trafficking has been going on for years, covered by the media, talked about among all, and feared by everyone. The number of people sold into sex slavery and human trafficking continues to grow every day. But with the help of other countries' government officials, this sickening global act will hopefully come to a much anticipated end in the near future. Throughout the duration of this, we have touched on what happened to the 276 girls who were taken and sold into sex slavery by Boko Haram. Their stories are an inspiration and also prove that still to this day, slavery is around. Their stories will never be forgotten, and thankfully, there were girls who were released to be able to let their stories live on. Lastly, we will talk about Nigeria's anti-trafficking agency and what they are doing to ensure the safety of the past and potential victims. Modern slavery has no place in the world, and I intend to ensure, through diplomatic engagement and increased action, that the United States government leadership in combating this global threat is sustained in the years to come. A quote from Secretary of State Michael Pompeo.